All right, what is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Help Me Understand podcast. I'm your host, JK, and we are kicking off episode number 179 of Help Me Understand. Before we get into today's episode about something that I want you to make sure you are checking as you're going through your budget for 2025, I first want to say thank you for choosing to press play on the Help Me Understand podcast. You have clearly no shortage of content that you can consume. So I truly never take it for granted that you chose to press play on Help Me Understand. Available now on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, obviously. So whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Podcasts, a thing, sure. And then also, most notably, recently uploading podcast episodes to YouTube. So if you would prefer to listen to this or watch this in the video format for a very riveting visual presentation, you also can jump on my YouTube channel, Coach JK McLeod, and follow me there. So with that, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Today's episode about checking a particular item in your budget to check your expenses was inspired by a hoodie that I wore today. I, some time ago, started getting the Instagram ads for this particular hoodie. And it's one of those hoodies that has a message on the front. And the message on the front of this particular hoodie says, if it costs you your piece, it's too expensive. So I'll repeat that again. The message on the hoodie, it's a black hoodie, white lettering. If you are someone who also got this same targeted ad, jump in the comments on Spotify if you're listening. I think that's the only place you can leave a comment and let me know. Or if you want to leave a review of this particular episode, let me know if you also got that same one. So it said, if it costs you your piece, it's too expensive. And that particular one is one that I purchased because it resonates so much with consistent messaging that I attempt to put out on a regular basis about the importance of protecting your mental energy, and often will use the visual of picture a battery, and each interaction that you have, each thing that you are doing is going to take some amount of energy from that battery that you have. It's easy to gauge how much of a physical drain something is going to be when you're doing something like working out or doing some sort of a manual task. From my perspective, it's a bit more difficult to gauge how much of that mental energy is going to be expended on a particular task, a particular interaction, a conversation, whatever the case may be. And something that I routinely focus on is, for both myself and for others that I'm working with, is helping them understand that very rarely do you have the option to spend no mental energy on a particular thing. So the illusion, to me, it's an illusion, or it could be a delusion, that you can just choose to spend zero of your mental energy on something. That's kind of tough, because even just taking a few seconds to decide whether, like, how much further you're going to go in a conversation, it expends a little bit. It's what I call like a trickle charge. It's just a little dab of that energy. It's maybe not even 1% of that particular battery. However, if you start the day with your battery at 100%, then go throughout the day and allow yourself to take a quick pause when you are aware that you are getting into an interaction that perhaps is going to drain some of that mental energy. You can take a moment and make a decision with, how much of my mental energy am I going to put into this? Is it worth a couple of minutes? Is it worth an hour? What am I going to pour into this? And I think about it even a bit further with, say, an interaction that's somewhat combative, for lack of a better way to put it. It's an aggressive interaction. in the work that I will typically do within the retail space, I'm often brought into situations where the individual on the other side of that conversation who wants to speak with me doesn't want to speak with me generally because they're super happy about a particular situation. They typically are wanting to express some frustration, and then they are hopefully looking to partner with me to get a resolution to whatever situation has just happened. So, in that particular instance, there's a certain amount of mental energy that if I want to perform at the level that I expect myself to perform in my particular role, I am going to need to spend a certain amount of mental energy in that interaction. Now, that is what it is. There's a certain amount of mental energy that it will take to solve that particular situation, to help that person de-escalate or to de-escalate the whole interaction, all of those things. So that's one piece of it. Another piece of it, though, is then the energy that's expended after the event itself is over. And this is where the phrasing of if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive, I think can come into play more often than people realize. So let's say that around 11 o'clock in the morning, I have a particularly tough interaction at work. Then, right after that interaction is over, let's say that interaction is over within about 10 minutes. It probably feels like an hour. And for those of you who have worked within the customer service realm or customer service industry, or are somewhat related to a position where you work with clients and have a lot of moving parts, and you've got to organize a lot of different departments in order to meet one common objective. You know what I'm talking about here. So let's say that interaction happens at 11. Well, right after that interaction is over, so the problem, at least the immediate problem, has been solved. Whatever went wrong has now been rectified and a solution has been in place. Then there always is the conversation after that particular event. So that is going to be some additional mental energy that's going to be spent on that particular event. Then you may get home and someone will ask you, "How was your day?" Depending on how you choose to answer that, you're then going to be spending additional mental energy on that particular event. So we start with what happened and then the resolution there. Then we have the speaking with coworkers or whoever may have been in the vicinity who wants to know, hey, what happened? What was going on with that situation? Then you have the conversation, perhaps when you get home or when you go out after work or whatever the case may be for you. So you've got, in this specific example, 3 different areas where one particular event is going to give you an opportunity to expend energy that you have to start off the day. So your energy is being utilized in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm certainly not intending to say that you should never spend mental energy on particular things. Uh, Perhaps in the past I've kind of worded it that way, and also I've evolved to understand that sometimes the phrasing may not necessarily be the most helpful. So I'm certainly not saying that you never spend mental energy on particular things. It's kind of like spending money on certain things that you know aren't necessarily going to serve you really well. It's not like a really super positive investment. And also, you just decide to spend the money. Okay, cool. Like, I did that. I believe that your mental energy goes the same way. You decide that you're going to spend some mental energy on some things, knowing that it's something that you really don't need to be spending money on, but you're going to do it anyway. It's a conversation that you really don't need to continue to go down that path, but you decide to do it anyway. My thing has always been, whatever you decide to do, just own it. Like, own whatever those decisions are. That's for a separate podcast. So back to that point of if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive, and how that relates to a belief that I have about mental energy and protecting your mental energy, and understanding that at the end of each day, you are the person who has the ultimate control in how much of that energy you are going to expend on particular tasks, on particular interactions. So when I think about how it relates to, especially this time of the year, this episode is being recorded and posting on January 1st, 2025. Very regularly, a goal that people will have is going to be somewhat financial related, and it's often related to budgeting, taking a look at their budget, going back over bank statements, getting an understanding of, okay, where have I been spending my money? Like, what have I been earmarking that paycheck towards? Money that's coming in, where is it going? So you take out a piece of paper or a spreadsheet and you line item different things. My suggestion, my action item for you, is to take that same sort of process and do the same thing, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Take some time to assess where you're spending your mental energy. So just as much as you will look and say, okay, man, I'm spending money on this particular subscription that I no longer need, I'm going through some of that stuff myself, like taking a look at things that are on auto pay that I basically forgot I even had. So going back through to cancel those things. Hopefully somebody out there can kind of relate to that. We just talked about it on the Lifting, Running, and Living podcast that's going to be out this upcoming Friday, which I think is the 3rd. Yeah, Friday the 3rd. That episode will come out. Taking that time to really go through and look at, okay, what am I spending money on that I really don't need? Doing that same thing with your mental energy budget. Are there particular relationships that you're pouring more into than you really desire to? Conversely, are there particular relationships that you want to spend more of your mental energy with that you currently don't believe you're spending enough of that energy towards that? And that doesn't mean, from my perspective, that when you're looking at it from a relationship standpoint, whether it be friends and or family members, coworkers, acquaintances, wherever they fall in those columns, it certainly, I'm not somebody who prescribes to, if the amount of energy that you put in is not the same as the amount of energy that you get out, that means you need to cut it off. I do believe that there can be relationships that are going to be asymmetrical. They're not going to be balanced. I think I use that term the correct way. There are some relationships that you will have that where you may put in 10%, you may put in, let's say, 70%, and the other person is putting in 30%. And as long as, from my perspective, as long as you are aware of that and you are willing to continue to do that, understanding that the energy that you're putting into that asymmetrical relationship means that you won't have as much to put into a different relationship, then for me, that then again goes under the heading of you own those particular decisions. So to take it back to the money example, I know that if there's an app that I spend $15 a month to subscribe to, knowing that I really don't use it all that often, I still decide, okay, I'm going to spend that $15 a month. That's $15 less than what I'm going to be putting into an app that perhaps is, let's say, a daily meditation app that perhaps could help me bring down a certain level of stress and potentially help my sleep routine. So those are different decisions that I'll choose to make. So again, same thing that I would say when it comes to your mental energy. My action item for you from my perspective is take some time to really look at your mental energy budget. Where are you spending your time? Where are you spending that mental energy? And make decisions in advance for the things that you know, especially relationship wise, where you either agree or don't agree to continue spending that amount of energy, and then make adjustments accordingly. Some things may need to be canceled. Some things you may need to up to premium or pro. We could run this analogy to death here, right? So that's all that I wanted to hop on here and say for today. Last, before closing, I want to say thank you to Feed Your Habits, feedyourhabits.com. If you hop on there, you will be able to check out a selection of t-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, and joggers for people that understand that habits don't just happen. They're built through strategic and intentional actions that are done consistently. Full disclosure also, I am a co-owner in Feed Your Habits. So that means I've got a discount code that you can use at checkout. So if you go to feedyourhabits.com, you put in code JKFYH in all caps. Again, that's JKFYH in all caps. That will get you 10% off of your purchase. And we currently do ship free inside the United States. So with that, thank you for listening to the Help Me Understand podcast, first episode of 2025. I appreciate you being here. Take care, and I'll see you next time.